I'm World's Strongest Man, Mitchell Hooper, and today I'm gonna get measured. So in this video, I wanna show you guys exactly how to measure if you have a leg length discrepancy yourself. We're gonna talk about practical applications and how that might affect your training through a variety of lower body movements that we have today. Lastly, stick around to the end. I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing to fix my leg length discrepancy. Stay tuned to find out. You're gonna learn some stuff. Let's measure, and let's see how different my left to right actually is. Now, when you measure, you've got your fibula on the outside, you've got your tibia, which is your shin bone. We're gonna wanna measure our tibia up to our joint space. So you should be able to feel where your femur and your tibia meet. In between that is the meniscus. So we wanna find right where that meniscus is. For me, that's right there. And we're gonna measure from medial malleolus to the inside of my joint space. Here, we're basically bang on 18.5 inches. In a perfect world, we would use civilized measurements in centimeters so we can be more precise, but 18.5 on the left. And on the right, I am right there. Same measurement, medial malleolus right into the medial meniscus, and it comes out at 16.5. That's a 2-inch difference, left longer than right. We'll talk about implications in a minute, but for now, you're gonna watch me squat. A leg length discrepancy is a really normal thing to happen. And if it's less than an inch, most physicians say that it actually doesn't matter. Mine, at 2 inches, is something that I didn't even notice until I was a little bit older. But there are definitely some implications to this. First of all, if your legs aren't the same height, automatically your hips aren't going to be level. So left leg is longer, meaning my hips are naturally going to be tilted this way, meaning that left hip is higher, right hip is lower. What are the implications of that? Well, you're gonna naturally shift more weight onto your side that's shorter. So if we're starting with a pelvis that's lower on the right than on the left, and we go into dynamic movement, it's gonna put the right side of your back under a loaded stretch, particularly a muscle called quadratus lumborum, which runs from your low back over out to your hip. Works as a really strong low back stabilizer. I actually have recurring issues with the right side of my low back, and this could potentially be why. Now back to the extra range of motion on the left hip. If you don't have that, you run out of room. There are two things that are gonna happen. One, you're gonna shift over to the side that has more relative range of motion. Number two, you're going to be more reliant on the strength of your non-dominant side, or your shorter side, I should say. Again, because you're gonna tend to move over. One of the ways, simplest, to work around a leg length discrepancy and make sure your pelvis is nice and level is to use something nice and stable to put under your foot. So I'm gonna put this under my short leg. We're gonna do a nice, easy set of 20, just keeping the blood flowing today. But keep an eye on my knees, because your knees are gonna tell you how long your tibia is, nothing else. If your knees are level, your hips should be level too. And if they're not, you've got a muscular imbalance happening at the hip or a leg length discrepancy at your femur, which is much less common. one interesting thing, if your legs are different lengths, you're going to tend to favor your longer one. Every stride you take, you're gonna have to do a little bit more of a step up on the long one and exaggerate it like limp. That's why when you see me yoke, my right step way shorter than my left step. The result is that you're gonna get a different musculature in both your legs. So my left is much larger and stronger than my right. Okay, so leg press is probably where I actually notice this the most because you're on a fixed plane and you can't move your hips like you can on squats, where I can mostly get around it. When I leg press, I always notice that my left seems to be going off all the way to the side, much further, my left foot. And when I come down, my left knee hits a point at which it wants to abduct from my body or come out. And so I end up with my left knee out here and my right knee in here. The reason being, the way our femur sits in the socket is like this, and our femur moves like this as we go into hip flexion. Eventually, that femur is gonna hit the front of the acetabulum or the front of the hip socket. When it does, I have more room out to the side, and so it wants to go out to the side, which then brings my knee out. My left hits the bottom of the socket, my right doesn't, so my right can comfortably stay in, my left can't. So I was at Longevity, my exercise physiology clinic, and I was demonstrating a deadlift. And I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I just couldn't get my left to match my right, and my hips wanted to keep shifting over to the right side. My knees just weren't looking right, so I measured, and that's how I came across this in the first place. It was only really 1 or 2 months ago. In terms of what this explains, my pelvis shifting down on the right-hand side explains how I like to stack my right side and shift my weight to the left. It explains my recurrent right low back issues. It explains a lot of ongoing things that I have. If I ever do high volume low back training, it's always the right side of my low back. I know that it's QL, but I've never known why. Now I know it's because it's constantly in a stretched position and constantly trying to fight to pick up my right hip, which is dropped to keep my right foot on the ground or resisting weight. So when I'm looking here, I see my left leg going much further out than my right. But as I come down into the bottom position, this feels really comfortable. This wants to come out here, so I'm fighting with my groin to keep that in. But I'm probably better off just letting it have its space and letting it do its thing out to the left and just accepting that things aren't going to be symmetrical. Did I catch you? Okay. So I think everyone likes to want to be perfectly symmetrical when they're moving, when they're lifting. But the thing is, the body's not built perfectly symmetrically. For example, the stomach sits about right here. Your heart sits right over here. Your appendix sits over here. Some things we just only have one, and our bodies just aren't really made to be perfectly symmetrical. Like I said at the outset, if it's less than an inch, a leg length discrepancy is actually something that you shouldn't even give a second thought to. Now, when we're lifting, we certainly want to aim to be as symmetrical as possible. We want our elbows to look roughly the same, but it doesn't need to be perfect. One of the best powerlifters of all time, Ed Cohen, actually benefited from a scoliosis. Reason being, if you have a curved spine, it's going to shorten the distance between your shoulders and your hips, making it more mechanically advantageous at your hips when you have load on your shoulders or through your shoulders when you're deadlifting. So maybe your leg length discrepancy, your scoliosis, your scapular dyskinesis, whatever you might have, maybe it's actually not that bad, but I am going to give you my tip straight after this exercise. Ready for the YouTube roast? Why are you holding onto the dumbbell and the barbell? So we're talking leg length discrepancy today. It's really not that big of a deal, but some people do have things that really hold them back from exercising, and my big passion is making those people feel comfortable in the gym. I have a line of clothing, Lift Heavy, Be Kind apparel, which we do two things. One, we want to be wearing that and make people feel comfortable when they walk into a gym. They see people who are strong, confident, comfortable people, and if they see that, they're going to feel more welcome as well. Two, we make donations back to independently owned gyms in the strength community. We gave back over $10,000 last year to help those gyms operate, to buy new equipment, and to continue to operate. So you'll have the shop straight below this video. If you don't, the link is in the description. We would love your support. Go ahead and check out our apparel. So it's time for my tip. First, you have to identify, is it a structural or a functional limitation that you're dealing with? A structural limitation is something to do with your actual bone structure. A functional limitation is how your muscles are used. For example, if my hips are here, my right leg seems shorter because I tend to hike my hip, and so I have to reach my leg down. That's something that can be improved. If it's simple as bone, it cannot be improved. If it's something that can't be improved, don't worry about it. I won World's Strongest Man, not even knowing that I had a leg length discrepancy. Never mind having it hold me back or cause some sort of chronic pain or disability. Remember, your body is capable of a hell of a lot more than you think it is, regardless of where you're at the moment. You can be more functional, you can be stronger, and a lot of times it's just about coming in, putting in a reasonable amount of work, get yourself under a little bit of load and become resilient in the body that you have. Don't worry about trying to change your body into something that it's not. Guys, I've always said, if you have nothing else to say, leave a moose trap in the comments, but I want to change that a little bit, and I want to change that into productive conversation to help the algorithm improve. So if you have nothing to say, what I want you to do is pop in the comments either something that you've done or something that you're going to do that's an act of kindness in the gym that's made someone feel comfortable and made them feel welcome in the space. If my community can be a part of the message and part of the solution to the public health issue, to the mental health issue, then that would be extremely meaningful and would make me twice as happy than if you just dropped a moose dropping in the comments. So go ahead and do that. What have you done to make the gym a better place this week? Pop in the comments. Lift heavy, Mikan.